Tanya Mosley didn't even know she had a sister until she went missing. Her sister, Anita, left home in 1987 and never returned. Now Tanya, along with the help of her sister's son, Antonio, is determined to find out what happened. I'm Kathleen Goldhar, and this week on Crime Story, one woman's search for her long-lost sister. Crime Story, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC Listen app for free.
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're at minus 23 with mainly sunny skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. The number of overdose-related calls recently is taking a toll on Winnipeg's fire paramedic service. On Sunday, 10 people were treated by members of the fire paramedic service and outreach workers at Sunshine House. Fire Chief Christian Schmidt says his members are dealing with the effects of toxic drugs on a daily basis.
What we need to understand is right now what we have going on in our city is essentially we have an unsafe consumption site because it's uncontrolled, it's happening everywhere.
Schmidt says it's not uncommon to have between 4 and 7 of his units dedicated to going out and caring for people suffering from an overdose or from the effects of either illicit drugs or alcohol. Reuters news agency is reporting U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to announce new tariffs against Canada and Mexico beginning March 1st. But it could include a process for the countries to seek specific exemptions for certain imports. The White House is holding a briefing this hour, while Trump's Secretary of State makes his case for those levies. Richard Madden has more from Washington.
Those tariffs may or may not rise with time.
U.S. President Donald Trump vows to implement his punishing tariffs against Canada and Mexico unless his continental neighbors take more aggressive action to stop migration and illegal drug flow into the U.S. And now Trump's top diplomat is upping the pressure. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says it's in Canada's best interest to comply with Trump's demands.
If I were them, I'd be concerned that with the crackdown on illegal immigration in the United States, people would flee north into Canada. So you would think we'd be able to work with them very cooperatively on border security.
Ottawa has since taken steps to strengthen border security and crack down on fentanyl. Those actions will be judged by the White House, with officials confirming U.S. tariffs are being used as leverage, forcing America's neighbors to adjust to Trump's domestic agenda. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
There's a new type of bus in town. FAB, or the Food Access Bus, FAB, is a new initiative helping Winnipeg seniors without transportation get to the grocery store. It had its first run yesterday. More than 40 seniors from Elmwood and North Kildonan were taken to and from stores like Walmart and Superstore. Lilana Villarba is the head of the Chalmers Neighborhood Renewal. The organization spearheaded the initiative.
This is a wonderful way to help people who are fixed income or low income. And being mobility challenged on top of it all and not having someone along to assist you, those are other issues that this bus kind of is helping to mitigate.
With help from funding from Elmwood and North Kildonan city councillors, Villarba says the program will run once a month for the entire year. Mark Carney says he would abolish the consumer carbon tax if elected Liberal leader. It was the Liberal leadership candidate's first major policy announcement since entering the race. As Kate McKenna reports, it's a hard turn for Carney, who once praised the price on carbon.
It has become very divisive for Canadians.
Mark Carney once said the Canadian carbon tax was a model for other countries. Now he's changed course.
My government will immediately remove the consumer carbon tax.
Today he released part of his economic and environmental plan, saying he'd penalize high pollution imports to keep Canadian companies competitive and speed up approvals of clean energy projects.
We will do all of this while remaining laser focused on lowering costs for Canadian households.
Carney says he'll create incentives and subsidies for green buildings and transportation with a goal of encouraging growth and fighting climate change. He also addressed Donald Trump's tariff threat, saying Trump thinks Canada will cave in, but it will never bow down to a bully. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
And the Trudeau government is delaying its plan to hike the capital gains tax. It means the proposed increase won't go into effect until January of 2026. While the hike was proposed in the Liberals' last budget, it has yet to go through Parliament, which is suspended until March 24th. And Canada's economy got a bit smaller in November, according to the latest data from Statistics Canada, but there are predictions December's numbers could make up for it. Anis Hadari explains.
0.2% smaller in November. That's how much the Canadian gross domestic product shrank in November of last year. The GDP is one of the main ways the economy's overall size is measured. According to Statistics Canada, one of the biggest drops came from transportation and warehousing, pinning that in part on things like labor disruptions at Canada Post or at ports. Many economists had predicted the economy would not shrink this much in November. So while today's data is a little bit unexpected, there are predictions things will have bounced back in December, which is expected to show economic growth, and that overall GDP numbers for the last 3 months of 2024 and the entire year will show overall growth. Anis Hadari, CBC News, Calgary.
And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, you can head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, or you can use the CBC News app. Taking a look at the forecast for the afternoon ahead. In Winnipeg, a mix of sun and cloud this afternoon, a high of -18. Brandon, a high of -18 as well, with mainly cloudy skies. Dauphin, a mix of sun and cloud, a high of -19, some wind. Sunshine in Flin Flon with a high around -21. Thompson, sunny with a high of -23 degrees. And on the bay in Churchill, you're seeing a few clouds this afternoon and windy, a high around -26.
Good afternoon and welcome to Radio Noon. I'm Laurie Hoog-Stratton on this chilly, very last day of January, where it's very January-like out there. Freezing cold with sunny blue skies. Coming up on the show today, February is the month to layer up and visit Manitoba's provincial parks because it's free entry. And February 8th is Manitoba Winter Trails Day, so on our call-in today, please call and talk about your favorite trails, parks, or winter activities. What have you discovered? What do you wish was available? 204-780-0893. At 12:15, putting a face on the food we eat, how a group of rural producers are connecting with consumers by getting together. But first up, what's for breakfast? It's a question that needs to have an answer 7 days a week. Up first, a weekend breakfast program expands to Brandon. More nutritious meals for students. Harvest Manitoba has expanded its Meals to Go program to Brandon. The Essential Weekend and Summer Meals program supports nearly 5,000 students each week across 15 schools in Winnipeg, Pasquac Cree Nation, and now Brandon. Betty Gibson and King George schools now have the program in the Wheat City. The CBC's Chelsea Kemp visited King George School yesterday to learn more. She first asked grade 8 student Dominic Reyes why he volunteered to help bring in the boxes of food.
It's something that we should all be grateful for having. The first day that she told us to get ready and take our meal kits to go for our parents, we were all grateful and happy. Because some kids don't have that and other schools don't either. I mean, we're grateful to have that. I mean, we have a breakfast program and having you guys too is even better.
Would some of your friends maybe not have snacks for the weekend if they didn't get the bag of goodies?
No, I know some people that are in different classes that are my friends that don't have any snack for the whole day. It's sad to see.
Chelsea also spoke with grade 8 student Eric Sakara.
They showed us the benefits of this amazing thing that happened, and I wanted to be in it and help, because it's a good thing for all of us.
What did you learn in class about Harvest Manitoba?
We learned that there was a lot of good stuff, and it was helping kids that didn't have breakfast.
Do you have friends who are probably going to get a bag today?
Yeah.
Are you going to take a bag home today too?
Yes. I'm going to eat it at home as a little snack, a treat for me.
Vince Barletta is the president and CEO of Harvest Manitoba. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So what runs through your mind when you hear Eric and Dominic talk about the Meals to Go program that's at their school now?
Well, I don't think anybody could have said it any better in terms of really what the program is all about, making sure that kids all across our province have access to nutritious food, not just during the week when many schools do have school nutrition programs, but also at home over the weekends when there are many kids that go home and don't have those breakfast items, those lunch items, those snack items to have on the weekends to help them along. And so those are two wonderful ambassadors, and we had a wonderful day yesterday in Brandon to launch our Meals to Go program at King George School, where those two students were, and at Betty Gibson School as well in Brandon. So we're happy to expand the program to new communities outside the city of Winnipeg.
And how has the program expanded since it started back in 2018?
So in 2018, our first school was Mulvey School, and the idea was that even though Mulvey has school nutrition programs, during the school day, on the weekend, kids were not necessarily getting the nutrition they needed at home, coming back to school on Monday not ready to learn, and so partnered with Harvest Manitoba to get, at that time, about 300 kids enrolled in that program. And since that time, we've been growing by about a school a year, and this year, we had a big expansion. We're now in 15 schools across the province of Manitoba, 12 here in Winnipeg, 2 now in Brandon, and 1 in Opaskwayak Cree Nation. And big support from our donors and our partners, and also the province of Manitoba through their education and early childhood learning school nutrition program. So a lot of incredible partners that are helping Harvest take this program to new communities.
So tell me about the Meals to Go program and how it works.
So the way it works is here at Harvest, we have wonderful volunteers that come in every week, and they pack 5,000 of these Meals to Go kits. That's how many students are getting Meals to Go kits every week during the school year. They pack those bags with fruit, yogurt, fresh milk, cheese, cereal, oatmeal, all sorts of the typical snack and breakfast items that a lot of kids would have today. Those bags get packed here at Harvest. They end up on a truck, and they're getting out to those schools. And so they're typically delivered on Friday afternoons, although this week we did many deliveries on Thursdays due to in-service. But they go out at the end of the day to kids. They end up in their backpacks, and they're going home with healthy things to eat during the weekend. And now we're doing that in 15 schools. So we're really proud of that, and you can hear from the kids the excitement they have, and we know it's having an impact for parents and families.
And do the families sign up for it, or can they do it just kind of on a drop-in basis? Do they go to a certain room in the school? How does that work?
So when we start our Meals to Go program in a school, and we do this in dialogue with the school division, so in Winnipeg School Division, Seven Oaks, Louis Riel, Brandon School Division, we work with the divisions to determine which schools are going to get the most benefit out of the program. And then once a school is selected, every student in the school gets Meals to Go. So in the case of a school like King George, where those young students were, about 300 students in that school, 300 bags are going to the school. So it's a universal program. When we pick a school, every student's getting the Meals to Go bag. And if parents would like to opt their child out, they're certainly able to do that.
Right.
But we find that parents always appreciate the bags, and the kids always appreciate the bags. There's good snacks in there, and the kids enjoy them, and we hope it means they're getting better learning outcomes when they're back to school on Monday.
Yeah, and is that demonstrable, what the impact is on the students? What are they telling you? What are the families telling you, and what are the teachers telling you?
Well, often people say they vote with their feet, and the reality is in schools where we've brought in the program, attendance does improve on the Mondays, and certainly the days when we're distributing the bags, whether it's the Friday or the Thursday before an in-service, kids are showing up to get those bags. And in several schools where situations can really be quite challenging for a lot of young people and absenteeism, the availability of those snack bags to go home with is incentivizing kids to make it to school and being able to get those snacks for the weekend. So we see kids voting with their feet in terms of what means something to them. And we hear it from teachers and administrators as well about the impact that it's having. So we're happy to partner with schools and donors and the government to bring it to hopefully even more schools across the province in the future.
I know moving beyond providing the core service of supporting food banks is part of Harvest Manitoba's long-term strategy. So how does Meals to Go fit into that?
Well, for us, Harvest has always been about more than just hampers. It's about hope. And so, of course, food banking is a big piece of what we do at Harvest Manitoba, but so many other things: Meals to Go, school nutrition, education, training programs. We have about 100 young people that participate in warehouse training programs here at Harvest and find jobs in the private sector. We do education programs all across our province with kids from grade school right through to the U of M Faculty of Medicine and everything in between, community gardening. So there's a lot that's going on that's more than just food banks, and we feel that that's an important part of being a well-rounded food security organization that supports the needs now of over 100,000 Manitobans every month that get served one way or another through Harvest.
Well, thank you very much for being with us on Radio Noon today.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Vince Barletta is president and CEO of Harvest Manitoba.
CBC Music Live. Head into the big venues, intimate concert halls, and small stages. Celebrate live music the way it was meant to be. Share in an unmistakable energy of being shoulder to shoulder with music fans and face to face with some of Canada's best musicians.
It's such an honor and a pleasure to play here.
CBC Music Live, brand new season. And catch past episodes right now on CBC Jam.
You're listening to CBC Radio Noon on Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM. I'm Laurie Hoogstraten, and coming up on the show today, putting faces to the foods we eat, how a group of rural producers are connecting with consumers by getting together. It's called Agrarian After Dark. That's coming up in just a minute. And on the call-in today, February means entrance to Manitoba's provincial parks is free. And February 8th is Manitoba Winter Trails Day. So on our call-in today, we want to hear about your favorite trails and what winter activities you like to do in the great outdoors. This does not include standing in front of your living room window staring at the birds. So call us with your favorite spots, which parks, which trails and frozen lakes, and share the most fun places to hike, bike, toboggan, or get cozy around a campfire. Give me a call, 204-780-0893. And taking a look at the weather today. In Winnipeg, mainly sunny with increasing cloudiness later this afternoon. Winds 15 kilometers an hour and highs of minus 18. Nasty wind chill of minus 30. Tonight, mainly cloudy with snow beginning, and the temperature will actually rise to minus 13. And some temperatures for you around the province. Brandon is minus 24, Churchill minus 29, Dauphin minus 25, Gimli minus 24, The Palm minus 28. Thompson also is minus 28. Winnipeg is minus 23, so we are kind of in the deep freeze today. Connecting rural food producers with consumers. That's the goal behind Agrarian After Dark, a night of presentations and conversations around where our food comes from. This is its second year, and Katie McGuinness is the co-owner of the Dog Runs Farm and one of the event organizers. Hello.
Hi, Laurie.
So what is Agrarian After Dark? Can you explain that?
Yeah, we've put together with a few different organizations who already have mandates around local food, regenerative farming, and connecting urban and rural people to put on a night for the second time to put the voices of producers first and really allow them to tell their stories, both successes and struggles that they have in producing food and using ecological practices in Manitoba.
And how did you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
No, I was just wondering where the actual idea of getting together came from. It seems like a great idea.
So my husband, Colin, who co-owns the Dogs Run Farm with me, had the idea to bring the farmers to the city. Both Colin and I grew up in Winnipeg, and so neither of us came from farming backgrounds. We know what it's like to be on both sides of that conversation of sort of having a connection and growing food and not knowing much about where your food comes from or having any kind of connection to an operating farm. So we've decided to try and get these producers' voices forward and bring them to Winnipeg, because it's hard for Winnipeggers to get out to these farms when they're operating in the summer months. So we're bringing the farmers to Winnipeg in the winter months when they've got a bit more time.
A bit more time. And tell me a bit more about the importance of gaining that public trust and public support for both ranchers, farmers, and the consumers.
Yeah, I think it's just so important to hear these stories directly from the farmers who are producing food and using these ecological and regenerative practices. There's a lot of talk these days about greenwashing in all different sectors of how food is produced. And I think getting the stories directly from the farmers and being able, and for people who don't produce food, to get a chance to empathize with the hard work that goes into it, but really understanding that it's not all romantic ideas of what it's like to be a farmer, but it's also, there's some really, really exciting things happening in Manitoba. There's a lot of talk and knowledge sharing happening between farmers already, but I just don't think those stories are getting in front of urban people and regular, Winnipeg city dwellers. So that's kind of our goal, is to get these stories in front of the people who aren't already aware of the really exciting stuff happening within regenerative agriculture in Manitoba.
And what are some of those stories that have amazed some of the people that came last year? Like, what really caught people's attention? Like, oh, what? There's high-tech stuff in farm production, or what is it?
Yeah, so this is our second year, and we've really tried hard to select different producers producing different kinds of food. So we've got grain farmers, we've got cattle ranchers, we've got vegetable producers, we've included a fiber producer both years. And last year we featured local fishermen up on Lake Manitoba. And just hearing all these different sort of stories was really captured the audience's imagination. We had one person who came, who I'll never forget. She stood up at the end during the Q&A session and said that, she had just come from climate action work that was happening in Winnipeg that day, but she had no idea that this kind of work was happening across the province. And that's exactly what we were hoping to do, to just bring these stories in front of an urban audience.
And the urban audience, where do they come from? Do you invite them, or do you just put the word out there? How does that work?
We've been putting the word out in every way that we can think of. So we're connected with lots of farm organizations. So we've got lots of ways to get that information out to both farmers and the people who are already purchasing from farmers and from organizations that support farmers. But we've been getting the word out through, we've got social media. That's a direct way to engage with people. Because we're working with the Harvest Moon Society, we've gotten, some of the Harvest Moon Festival social media has been sharing some of our information. We've got lots of people with newsletters, and then things like this. The radio is a great way to let average people know that we're coming to the city.
Now, I understand there are young agrarians who are involved as well. So how are young farmers' perspectives different than, say, boomers or Gen X farmers? How have their perspectives changed?
Yeah, Young Agrarians is one of the organizations that's been helping to organize the event. And they do work to sort of advocate for and connect new and young farmers to operating farms and give them opportunities to start to engage with farming. We're facing a direct decline in the number of people who begin farming, and the age of farmers is going up and up towards retirement. And we're going to be facing a big problem when it comes to replacing some of these farmers. So having the perspective of young people on agriculture and giving them opportunities in agriculture is really important. There's a lot of barriers to becoming a new farmer, and those are some that my husband and I faced in starting our farm. And so Young Agrarians is a great organization to be involved with. It's also a lot of the young farmers who are coming from farm families are the ones who are pushing for more regenerative practices within their operating farms, and are the ones who are bringing these new ideas and new techniques to the farms as well.
Well, I would imagine with the possibility of tariffs being dumped on Canada tomorrow, you might get some questions about that. And of course, you've had to prepare your content long in advance. But are you prepared to talk about that? What the effect might be?
I think that it's at the forefront of my mind and a lot of farmers' minds. I'm not a an international trade expert, so I really can't speak to the specifics about what we may be able to expect. But tariffs will have a major impact on Canadian producers. There's also tariffs that are going to affect throughout the United States on food availability here in Canada as well. So I think that what the exciting part that I see coming from this is a real push to support Canadian farms and support Canadian producers. So I hope that that's where we can push the conversation a little bit, because farmers are going to need the support from the people who eat the food.
So if you could sum it up, what would you say would be the main takeaways? You have, 6 farmers and ranchers. Is there a key focus message? As you say, of course, the tariffs are top of mind right now, but what's the broader message?
I think the broader message is that we're hoping that people are going to leave inspired, knowing that this work is happening in Manitoba, that there are a lot of producers who are already thinking about and concerned about climate change, about how to produce food in a changing climate, and that if you're worried about that work being done, there's already farmers worried about doing it. So, and there are these great connections that are already happening, especially with lots of the organizations that we've got as sponsors and who are going to be there represented at the event. And that we hope that consumers get the message that they can support those organizations that are supporting farmers. And that's such a great way to tap into the future of food production here in Manitoba.
Well, and just as a final question, you're showing the consumers sort of the face of the producers and what they make. Are there snacks?
Yes, we're going to have, we're having pizza from Wall Street Slice, and we're also having a variety of salads from Tallgrass Prairie Catering. So we're really excited. At 6 o'clock, people can come down and have some food, have a drink, and then the presentations start at 7 p.m. And this is all happening at the West End Cultural Centre tomorrow, February 1st.
Sounds great. Very nice to talk to you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Laurie.
Bye-bye. That's Katie McInnes. She's the co-owner of Dogs Run Farm near Clearwater, Manitoba, and one of the organizers of Agrarian After Dark. And as Katie mentioned, the event happens tomorrow night at the West End Cultural Centre. Tickets are $15. Doors open at 6 p.m. and there are snacks. You're listening to Radio Noon. Is 26 minutes after 12 o'clock, and we're going to just squeeze in a little information for you. Sunday is Groundhog Day. It's a day when a rodent becomes a weather prognosticator and gets a lot of attention. In Wiarton, Ontario, their resident weather-wise groundhog is, of course, Wiarton Willie. And lots of people have their fingers crossed that he does not see his shadow this Sunday, because not seeing the shadow means that it would be in early spring. And the man who will lean in and hear Willie's prediction is Mayor Jay Kirkland.
Wiarton Willie is an albino groundhog that predicts the weather on February 2nd every year. And he usually does a pretty good job. Years ago, there's a group of friends got together, led by Mac McKenzie from Oliphant. And they decided this would be something that would be good for Wiarton to, kind of a homecoming for people to come back and friends and neighbors meet. And it involved the tradition of predicting the weather with the groundhog. So it's turned into quite a big event. Once we get to prediction morning, of course, we have the fireworks starting right at 7 a.m. And then at 8:07 sharp, we unveil Willie, and I put the oath of office on my neck, and that allows me to be able to talk to the groundhog. Hopefully we hear that it's in early spring this year. Then a whole bunch of games start, the trackless train, the video games. There's so much more. Like, everybody should visit the website, WiartonWillie.com. There's lots of people trying to tell us what the weather's going to happen in their areas, and we rely on Willie for our area.
Hey, why not a groundhog? That is South Bruce Peninsula Mayor Jay Kirkland. He'll be part of this weekend's Wiarton Willie Festival celebrations. And here is M. Byhold with Groundhog Day.
All my friends are moving on, getting hitched, and then they're gone, and I'm alone. I'm in the same room as before, with mom and dad right next door, and I'm scared I might be here forever. I love them, but some ties need to be severed. And I said I'd move out last year. it's easy to say I'm okay, but this smile I'm wearing is fake. I'm suffocating, living Groundhog Day, day after day, day after day, and I think I'm gonna break. My friend's baby's on the way.
Little Groundhog Day music for you. And coming up after the 12:30 news, our call-in. In February, entrance to Manitoba's provincial parks is free. February 8th is the first Manitoba Winter Trails Day ever. And on our call-in, we want you to let us know about your favorite trails and parks and what winter activities you like to do in the great outdoors. So call us 204-780-0893 and tell us about your hearty winter activities. You're listening to Radio Noon. The news is next.
This is CBC News. At 12:30, we're at minus 22 with sunny skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. The White House press secretary has just said reports of the tariffs against Canada coming March 1st are false, and it is still the plan for the tariffs to come in tomorrow. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Canada is ready.
I won't sugarcoat it. Our nation could be facing difficult times in the coming days and weeks. I know Canadians might be anxious and worried, but I want them to know the federal government, and indeed all orders of government, have their backs.
Trudeau says there will be an immediate Canadian response if the tariffs are implemented. However, the details have yet to be made public. It has been suggested they could include stimulus payments to Canadian companies hit hardest by the tariff action. In other news, the head of Winnipeg's Fire Paramedic Service says his members are ready to do their part once a safe consumption site is up and running. Chief Christian Schmidt says his members are burning out with the volume of overdose calls they deal with every day. On Sunday, his staff and outreach workers at Sunshine House were overwhelmed when 10 people overdosed on a toxic drug called Brown Down in under an hour. 10 in under an hour. Schmidt says a safe consumption site would take some of that pressure off.
With this proposal, it's going to pave the way for some of our outreach service providers to be able to connect some of the users with the professional help and personnel that are going to be at this consumption site.
Schmidt says what is happening in the city right now amounts to an unsafe consumption site because it is uncontrolled and it happens all over the place. A new initiative in Winnipeg called FAB, F-A-B, or the Food Access Bus, is helping seniors with no transportation get to the grocery store. It had its first run yesterday. More than 40 seniors from Elmwood and North Kildonan were taken to and from stores like Superstore and Walmart. 88-year-old Elaine Strelayoff has been using Transit Plus for the past 15 years to get her monthly essentials. She says this initiative means she doesn't have to worry about the added cost of getting to the store, to the grocery store, and back.
It's hard for everybody, but seniors are really feeling the pinch. I really think it's very hard. You got to you have to check everything out before you buy it.
City councillors from Elmwood and North Kildonan pitched in $7,000 total in funds from their ward to help pay for the Food Access Bus. And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Manitoba, or you can use the CBC News app.
Well, thank you, Matt. And I have a question for you.
Yes.
Our calling today is because the provincial entry fee to parks is waived all through February to get people out and about, and it's going to be Trails Day. And I'm just wondering, you've been in Manitoba for a little while now. Have you turned into a hardy Manitoban? Do you get out there, and what do you do?
When I went outside today, I didn't even realize it was in the minus 20s. I thought it was minus 8.
Because you're just so tough, you didn't
I've
feel it?
acclimatized.
You've acclimatized. You didn't seize up?
I was shocked looking at the thermometer. Anyways, there's I'm a little biased, but people should check out in the Grand Beach Provincial Park, which is not too far away.
No, it's really not.
In between Grand Beach proper and Lester Beach, there's the Ancient Beach Trail.
Okay.
Which is good for snowshoeing and cross-country skiing. There is an incline that goes up to a lookout over the lake. And it's just gorgeous. And there's various different trails marked with various animal signs, like the wolf trail and stuff. And it's a beautiful, magical place. I go there with my wife.
Oh, that's great. And that's exactly what we want to hear from our listeners, where they like to go, what they like to do, or what they'd like to try. Well, thanks, Matt. And if you go out today after work, put your toque on because it is cold.
Back soon.
Okay, bye-bye. That's Matt Humphrey at the news desk today. Okay, in the absence of Riley, I'm doing the weather. I'm going to tell you a few places what it's coming up to be in case you want to get out and about in our parks and trails. In Winnipeg today, mainly sunny, highs of -18. With the wind chill, that'll feel like -30, but don't let that get you down. Tonight, mainly cloudy with some snow, and the temperature will rise to -13 by morning. This is the kind of basic message over the whole province where it's going to get nicer for the weekend. Tomorrow in the Winnipeg region, snow, blowing snow at times, and highs of -6. And in Brandon today, mainly cloudy with highs of -18, and snow this evening in Brandon as well, and blowing snow. And their temperature is cranking up to -14 by morning. And on Saturday, the snow continues with a high of -7. In Gimli today, also sunny, but getting cloudy this afternoon, highs of -19. Cloudy tonight, snow before morning, and the temperature rising to -15. In the Paw today, sunny, not much wind, highs of -23. And even though there's not much wind, the wind chill is still -34. High of -20 or low of -23 tonight. So kind of nippy up there. And in Thompson today, the sun is out everywhere it seems. Highs of -23, and tonight clear. Lows of -33, so it's kind of dipping down. And in Churchill today, a mix of sun and clouds, with the winds west at 30 gusting to 50. It's really nippy on the bay, as Matt would say. Highs of -26. And tonight in Churchill, the winds west at 30 gusting to 50 and lows of -32. But all is not lost. It's going to warm up everywhere a bit on the weekend. So you can get out and about, because rumor has it that the best things in life are free, including Manitoba's provincial parks for all of February. There's no entrance fee, and the idea is to get Manitobans enjoying winter activities in the great outdoors, and our parks have a lot of great outdoors attached to them. This is your big chance to celebrate instead of hibernate during the somewhat colder months, and if you're used to swimming in a lake in the summer, try skating on it in the winter instead. Same with fishing. Fish are still biting, and this time of year, there are no bugs, no poison ivy, and sweating is optional instead of inevitable. And on top of free admission to provincial parks, February 8th is the very first Manitoba Winter Trails Day, and we're going to hear more about that in a minute. But we want to hear your stories, inspiring or hair-raising, about braving the outdoors, and especially which trails and parks you love to visit and why. What do you recommend? Give us a call, 204-780-0893, or you can text 204-588-7355. Our guests today on Radio Noon are Sloan Cathcart, who is Head of Parks Interpretation for the province, and Dave Tournier is with Trails Manitoba. Hello to you both, and welcome to Radio Noon.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Hello. Dave, I'll start with you. You're with Trails Manitoba. Tell us about this first ever Manitoba Trails Day. What's it all about?
Yeah, I mean, the first ever Manitoba Winter Trails Day is simply meant to highlight that Manitoba is a place full of exciting places to recreate in the outdoors in the winter. And I should say this follows on the heels of a couple of years ago when the first Manitoba Trails Day was declared for the first Saturday in June as well. So it's nice now that we have kind of a summer and a winter equivalent for the both. The June date coincides, by the way, with International Trails Day. So I think it's a wonderful way to highlight the increasing presence that trails are playing, not only in our recreational lives, but also in the role of health in this province. And yeah, it's just really great to see a little spotlight being put on this because, as you mentioned earlier, they are accessible and free for the most part. And I mean, how wonderful is that?
Really? And have you always been a trails enthusiast, or when did you get into trailing around?
You know, that's funny you ask because there's two parts, and I'll keep it short, but two parts to that. I only became a real trail enthusiast when I lived in Minnesota a number of years ago. I got involved in trails out there and was like, oh my God, where has this been my whole life? And then a couple of years after that, I purchased my first ever fat bike because I wanted to try out what was this winter thing all about. And I have to say, and I hope listeners don't get too upset with me, but I was a terrible Canadian up until that point. I despised mostly everything about winter. But when I got on that bike and started exploring winter through that lens of recreation, it completely transformed my relationship with winter. This was 2018, 19. And ever since then, I mean, I can't imagine being more passionate about something else for me personally. It's really become a huge part of my life.
Well, I hope you'll spark our listeners to give us a call about their transformation. What was the moment, their, eureka moment of like, oh, winter, it's good. Give us a call, 204-780-0893, and talk about what you enjoy about winter or what turned you into a winter fan or maybe turned you against it. Now, Sloan, you're with Provincial Parks. Tell us about free admission into all the parks. How's that going to work?
Yeah, so February is free park entry month for all provincial parks. So vehicle permits are not required this month. So it's an initiative that we started over 10 years ago, maybe 12, 13 years ago now, to really showcase winter activities and encourage Manitobans to get outside and explore provincial parks in the winter season. So we have groomed trails in over a dozen provincial parks in the wintertime for all kinds of activities, for cross-country skiing, go snowshoeing, hiking, fat biking, ice fishing is popular. There's lots of reasons to still go to provincial parks in winter, and the free entry period is a way to showcase that.
So which parks get the most use in the winter? Which trails?
Geez. That's a good question. There's parks are pretty popular in the wintertime as well. Yeah. Right around Winnipeg, Birds Hill, Grand Beach that Matt mentioned earlier, are pretty popular destinations, along with Beaudry. Out at Headingley, we've got a couple of nice groomed ski trails there. Out in the eastern region, with Whiteshell is definitely a popular destination for snowmobiling. There's lots of different cross-country ski trails and hiking, snowshoeing opportunities out there. In the western region of the province, Spruce Woods and Turtle Mountain provincial parks are pretty popular. We've got big, long networks of ski trails there. So anyone's looking for a bigger, longer adventure, those are good destinations to go to.
And what would you say, Dave? What makes a trail popular? Is it because it's easy to get to or easy to ride on, or what are the attributes of a good trail?
Well, that really depends on who you might be as a trail user. What's interesting about winter is trail use changes so dramatically according to a person's preference, right? In the summer, we're basically all mostly, on foot or on wheels. That's pretty much the easiest way to sum it up. But in winter, of course, now all of a sudden we're on foot, or we're on snowshoes, or we're on skis, or we're on fat bikes. So all of a sudden, what is a good trail to you really depends on your use type in the winter. So it's, for me, what is a great trail? A great trail is a place where I can just kind of let everything else go for a bit and just focus on the trail. If I'm riding a trail, fat biking, something that has flow, which most people who ride bikes would kind of understand. It's a style of riding where you're not constantly on the brakes having to do corners, but everything just kind of flows and comes at you naturally. If it's hiking or trail running, which I'm also a huge fan of, I was out last night for a trail run in the Assiniboine Forest. In that respect, what makes a great trail for me, this might sound strange, but I love being on any trail at night, because night makes a trail a completely different experience. And what might be an average trail in the daytime, it has a unique character to it, I suppose, at night that's really remarkable. And if anybody hasn't used trails a lot at night, I highly recommend that, because it's such a unique, different experience. As Sloan, I don't know if you have any experience with that, but as I'm sure you'll say, it's very, very neat.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of my favorite times to hit trails in the wintertime, is at night, especially on days where the moon is shining.
Sure.
With the snow on the ground, you get lots of kind of natural light even at night. So makes for a really spectacular experience.
Yeah. And Sloan, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned ice fishing, and ice fishing is huge these days. You see all the little villages of them. How have the parks adapted to that in terms of access and also in terms of junk on the ice and all that, which can sort of be a problem? How are the parks handling that?
Yeah, I'm big into ice fishing myself. I do it all through the winter season. Yeah, it's definitely popular. It's grown in popularity in recent years. It's pretty easy to get equipment and get out on the ice. So a lot of lakes are still easily accessible in the wintertime. Roads are plowed into a lot of parks, and think of a place like the White Shell, all those lakes are all still road accessible. So you could walk out from the road and drill a hole and start fishing. So.
And what about camping? Can people camp in the winter in the parks?
There's a few options. Our kind of developed campgrounds that you would visit in the summertime are all closed in the winter season. There's limited services, so it's not a big activity, but there are some areas that you can do some winter camping, especially along trails into the backcountry sites. That's really popular. So a place like Spruce Woods or Turtle Mountain, for example, have these longer trails, and there's some campsites and backcountry cabins on those trails that you can actually stay in. So they're popular.
Yeah, that'd be fun. And Dave, I wanted to ask you about the trails where you do the fat biking. Now, those are different trails than the groomed cross-country trails, right?
Yes.
Because you don't want to mess those up. But where would people snowshoe? Somewhere in between, or how does that work?
That's a fantastic question. I hope we'd touch on that. Kind of dovetailing back to, pardon me, your previous question and my response, there are so many different users in the winter, right? So understanding trail use and what each user is looking for is really critical in the winter. And I think a lot of the times people don't know just because they don't know. But when it comes to people who are riding fat bikes, people who are riding fat bikes are typically looking for smoother trails and trails that don't have a whole lot of post holes in them, which is, when you're sinking into soft snow, you're creating big depressions in the ground, which I mean isn't nice for people walking or running either, to be fair. But fat bikers are looking for smoother trails where they can move along without fear of catching their front tire in a big hole and going over the bars or something. Walkers don't need a whole lot for different trail tread, as it's said. They just need a generally flat surface. If it's after a fresh snow, it's going to require some packing down, of course. If somebody wants to pull a kid's sled with them, put a kid in it or put a little bit of weight in it, that flattens out the trail really, really nicely and creates a firm base for all the users after that.
Oh, good.
When it comes to skiing, though, non-skiers typically, there may be some exceptions in various provincial parks, but typically non-skiers should avoid all cross-country ski trails because it may seem simple to just walk on the edge, but maybe you've got a dog with you or who knows what. It doesn't take much to put a cross-country ski trail into a state or condition where they actually have to wait for the next snowfall before they can repair it and make it safe and enjoyable for cross-country skiers. So understanding some of the needs of different user groups in the winter, I think is really critical for all of us as trail users. So that way, whoever the trail user might be, odds are they're going to get the experience that they're looking for.
Sure. Well, and Sloan, I'm going to give you the last word. Tell me, how should people prepare if they are experimenting with getting into the park in February? They've maybe done it before, and I'm talking about how do they find out whether things are open and maintained, and what should they bring with them?
Yeah, so a good place to start is looking for the parks closest to where you are. So you can go to our website, manitobaparks.com. We have a winter trails and experiences page on our website that breaks down different parks that you can visit based on the activity you want to do, whether it's hiking or skiing or snowshoeing, fat biking. We give some recommendations on some different trails that you could go to. And then, dressing in layers is important in the wintertime. Dressing warm, proper footwear for your activity. Always bring a pair of extra socks. Is always good.
Always good.
And drinking water, make sure you're bringing water as well. Something we don't maybe naturally think of in the wintertime because it's not hot out, but it's still important to stay hydrated
You
as
still
you're,
need it.
going along.
Sure. Well, and Dave, I'm just going to ask you, where are you heading this weekend?
You know what? I'm actually going to be staying in the city because I've organized I've organized a group of fat bikers to actually, I'll be leading them up to northern Saskatchewan later in February on a trip. So we have a preparation ride, if you will, scheduled for tomorrow here in the city. So we're going to be doing a 24-kilometer fat bike ride. Yes, the wind chills will be in the minus 22s, 24s, but that also makes actually for really great conditions for us to, determine what our preparedness is for the adventure that we have coming within a relatively safe and accessible environment should we need some help. So I'll actually be hanging around the city this weekend.
Okay, well, this has been a really interesting discussion. Thank you both for being with us here on Radio Noon and inspiring us to get out to the provincial parks. It's free. And the first Winter Trails Day. That's fantastic. Thanks so much. That's Sloan Cathcart, who is head of parks interpretation for the province, and Dave Tournier is with Trails Manitoba. Check out manitobatrails.com to find out what the trails are like. This next tune might encourage you to get outside by Wilderness of Manitoba. This is Orono Park.
Blood boils through your veins and then flows gently like the Nile. But I will come home again tonight. Flowing rivers may have stopped me when I held on to the shore. But I still chased after you tonight. Still sang out songs that felt just right. Silver strings spun a gentle song on breezy nights like these. Storms broke and gentle winds, just like tides rattle levee walls tonight. Whoa.
Little music by Wilderness of Manitoba. That was Orono Park. You're listening to Radio Noon. It's just coming up to 5 minutes before 1 o'clock, and we've got some time for a little bit of some laughter. Kathy Boyd, who actually used to do quite a bit of work for CBC on various comedy shows back in the day, DNTO, definitely back in when it was definitely not the opera. And she got her start in stand-up comedy kind of late in life. She got a big break a few years ago when she became a contestant on Canada's Got Talent. And as she explains for CBC's Laugh Out Loud, she has a few theories on why she was selected to be on the show.
Anybody see me on Canada's Got Talent? That's about right. They don't just take anyone. You know, you have to have talent. But you also have to be kind of unique, you know. So in my case, it was probably because I'm not your stereotypical comic. I have a car. I know why they took me. I wasn't born yesterday. That's why they took me. But I don't care. This face got me on Canada's Got Talent. You know, and I can remember when this face used to be able to stop traffic. Yeah, I was a school crossing guard at the time. Yeah, now the only way I stop traffic is if I push that pedestrian crossway button. And even then, the other day, a guy almost ran into me. Yeah, he said, "Sorry, I didn't see you." I said, "You didn't see me? According to my BMI chart, you should have seen two of me." High five.
That's Kathy Boyd. Recorded in Oshawa at the 905 Comedy Festival. And you can catch a full episode of Laugh Out Loud later today at 1:30 and on Saturdays at 6:30 here on CBC Radio 1. And you can also subscribe to the podcast. And in studio with me now is host of Up to Speed, Faith Fundal. Hi, Faith.
Hello, Lori. The ever-changing story coming out of the United States.
Yes.
Earlier today, we heard that the White House was considering delaying or having the threat of a tariff against Canada imposed in March. That's changed now. We just heard from the White House spokesperson saying that the February 1st tariff deadline still stands, so that's 25% tariff on Canada. We'll follow with this story. It's been ever-changing. So it may change again before the start of the show, but we'll keep folks up to speed. And if you don't want to hear about that, but you are looking for love this Valentine's Day, stay tuned because we're going to learn more about a local matchmaking event that is helping singles find a love connection based on more than just appearances.
Well,
stay tuned for that coming up.
Right. That's Faith Fundal, host of Up to Speed. You can hear them this afternoon from 3 to 6. Everything from heartbreaking tariffs to heart-mending Valentine's Day activities. It's all happening on that show. Well, you've been listening to Radio Noon, and I'd like to thank May McKillop, who is our technical director, Wendy Parker, who is our other kind of director, and Sierra Sanders, also a director, and our YouTube live stream producer, Kevin Nipateo. And coming up on CBC Radio 1, it's the podcast showcase. It's freezing cold out there, very, very cold with the wind chill, but it is sunny. And remember, you can get into all the parks starting tomorrow for free and stomp around or fish or chop a hole in the ice and swim if you're that way inclined, or just make some hot chocolate and stay indoors. You can pick whatever you want. It's been great talking to you, and I'll talk to you again on Monday. Enjoy the weekend. Gonna get a little snow. Talk to you later. Bye.